Okay, thank you both for being here. Really appreciate your time. I know it's a very busy time, it's campaign time. And thank you to the Taos County Chamber of Commerce for helping us put on yet another forum. For those of you who are starting to tune in, we're a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties because Zoom, but here we are, we got things working. I'm here this evening with our candidates for House Representative for District 42, which along with District 41, which takes up a portion of Western Taos County, encompasses our area. Our incumbent this year, Christina Ortez, is the Executive Director of Taos Land Trust, where she directs an organization that has worked on land conservation projects throughout Taos County. Christina was elected in 2020, took office in 2021. Florence Miera, Christina's only challenger in the June primary, is a supervisor with Taos Behavioral Health, which provides therapy services to children and adults in Taos County. Before we start with opening statements, which you'll have 2 minutes for, sometimes people ask us the very basic question of what does a House of Representative do? So House reps, along with state senators, make up our state's lawmaking body. House rep gathers information from their district, they conduct research, they talk to their constituents, and they create policies to address the district's needs. The legislative session happens every year in January and February. That's when all our legislators get together. They propose bills, they sponsor bills, they sit on committees, and the goal is to get laws passed that impact their constituents. And New Mexico is the only state that doesn't pay our legislators a salary. So with that, we'll start with opening statements. We'll go in the order you appear on the ballot. Christina, you appear first because you're the incumbent. You have 2 minutes to tell us about yourself, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Taos News, Ms. Mia, and everyone watching tonight. It takes a lot to run a campaign and serve in the legislature. It takes hard work and ability to multitask, and sometimes it takes laser focus as you're trying to get a bill over the finish line. In the last week, I thought that what it really takes is integrity and being true to yourself and your community. Many of you received a negative mailer about my opponent. I've read that this is something that my campaign did. I'm here to tell you that that is not true. A PAC, a political action committee, did that. This is what's called an independent expenditure. It is illegal for my campaign or any campaign or candidate to coordinate with a PAC, period. I'm also saying that this kind of gross tactic doesn't represent my values. It is just not who I am. I stand by what I say and what I send. And I want you to know who I am. I stand for this community. I stand for the hardworking people of Taos County who are desperate to stay here and be able to provide a comfortable life for their families. And that's why I work so closely with our electeds and nonprofit leaders to find real housing solutions. I stand for land and water. It's why I have made it my life's work to restore and protect our sacred lands, rivers, and acequias. It's why most of my capital outlay funding went to acequias and our water systems here in Taos County. It's what I know, and it's who I am. I stand for education. It is why I supported increased teacher wages and the new opportunity scholarships so everyone can go back to school and get a degree. And I stand for public safety. And that's why I enthusiastically supported raises and retention bonuses for law enforcement. And it's why I supported the comprehensive crime package that enhances penalties for felons who possess or brandish firearms. This is what I stand for, and this is who I am. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Florence, go ahead. So, Florence, we can't hear you. So,
how about now?
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Florence Miera. Thank you, Taos News. Thank you, John Miller, for hosting us. I am here today. My purpose is to make a difference in my community. And I want to take a moment to thank those of you who serve, our veterans, EMT, law enforcement, teachers, nurses, firefighters, policymakers, and those of you who lead our community, who do that with integrity and love and compassion and courage. Thank you for showing kindness during this difficult time. The tragic events facing our world today and our town, the Texas shooting, has impacted us so much. I work for Taos schools, and every day, the last few days have just been really sad. You know, sitting with these kids and the teachers and knowing that we really need policies that change this. We need to stop fighting with each other and really take a look at what's happening, not just in our community, but in the world. Our world is suffering. And I know as a social worker, as a community provider, as a mental health provider, I can go across that aisle and sit at these tables, no longer saying, let's pray, let's do this for someone else. No, today's the day. Now is the time to stop the bullying, stop this. It's your side or my side. Our kids are way too important for us to fight against each other. We need to come together as a community. We need to come together and show our kids that they're more important than that. I'm a lifelong resident and Democrat of Taos County, despite what this flyer, whatever it was, it came from an environmental PAC. And thank you, Ms. Ortez, but it is an environmental PAC. And one of your saying is, dime quién eres y te digo quién, dime con quién andas y te digo quién eres. Well, my signs are crossed out and this flyer came out and my students are asking me, Miss, what is going on? And I'm telling them, like I would tell any of you here, self-regulation is key. Let's first regulate ourselves. Let's stop putting that hate out there. I, as your representative, will show you what it's like to love our community. I was born and raised here. My grandfathers were veterans. My grandmothers were the strongest women I know, and I got my values from them. Stay strong, be strong, and teach, not talk badly about each other. Thank you.
Okay, let's get into some questions. Florence referred to this in her opening, and of course it's on everyone's minds. 2 days ago at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, an 18-year-old killed 19 children and 2 teachers, which is the deadliest mass shooting in Texas history and the second worst school shooting after Sandy Hook in 2012. On May 14th, another shooter killed 10 Black people at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. New Mexicans, along with everywhere else in this country, people are reeling from this latest mass shooting. So the question is, what do you believe are the fundamental reasons why mass shootings like these continue to happen in the United States? And if elected, what specifically would you do to plan to ensure, to the greatest extent possible, that mass shootings like these don't happen here in New Mexico? 2 minutes for that. And Florence, you're first.
Okay, so as a mental health provider, every day, which is really sad to say, I work with students and families who are suicidal. And number one is we have to get to that root cause. Why are they so sad and wanting to hurt themselves? And then we have students who are homicidal, which is very rare, but I work with this every day. And I think we need to get to that root cause. These children are not born that way. And so in order to stop this, I said this at the beginning, like we need to stop this, this side and that side. We got to come to that table. I have what's called transformation tables, and the community comes together to come up with a way to support my students, to help them achieve their goals and to really work on what's going on inside of them. That's what's happening, is that we have children who are abused, there's violence. They're watching what is happening right now, and they're hearing people talk. They're looking at, their parents are talking about, did you see that email? Did you hear that on Facebook? Instead of spreading love, we're spreading hate. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. And as your state legislator, I will bring everyone together to say, let's work on this. Whether you voted for me or not, I still invite you to come with me and let's make the changes. It's time to change this. It's the only way we're going to stop what is happening. Thank you, John.
Okay, so quick follow-up question, Florence. You mentioned mental health, but you did not mention gun control. In 2020, our state legislature passed red flag gun law, which unfortunately has not been used very much. So the question is, would you also advocate for added gun control in the state?
Absolutely. When I call these families and I call the parents and I know there's guns in the home, I am not afraid to say, you need to put a lock on that. And people listen. We really need to talk. Communication is key. Yes.
Okay.
I would fight for that.
So Christina, same question. What would you do? What do you believe the cause of mass shootings are? And what would you do to prevent them happening here in the state?
Thanks, John. I think that the biggest cause to mass shootings is access to high capacity magazines and assault rifles. I think that's probably the biggest issue, is that people have very quick and easy access to guns in Texas in particular. The laws were repealed so that folks could get a hold of guns much more easily without waiting. So that's part of the problem. There's no doubt that behavioral health and mental health issues need to be addressed, and we need to provide way more supports than we're doing right now. But really, it's an access issue, and I'm going to go ahead and go right into the legislation that I think we need to ensure that we keep our communities safe here in New Mexico. In 2020, we passed extreme risk protection order. You're right, it hasn't been used as much as I think it probably should be, but it is saving lives. Do we need to make tweaks to it? It's a possibility. I think we need to wait for that data to come back from the courts and from legislative finance to see what it looks like. I think the universal background checks that were passed in 2019 have done a huge job here. We need that on the national level, which is something as a state legislature we can't really do. But there are things that we can do next year to ensure that our communities are safe. One is to pass a ghost gun law. We tried to do that 2 years ago, and it didn't get very far because there was a lack of evidence, but there was a school shooting just last year using a ghost gun. We need to make sure that can't happen. And I think that we also need to have a gun storage law. The Benny Hargrove Act should have passed, and it didn't. So I look forward to working with my colleagues to making sure that sails through both houses and gets signed by the governor so that we can ensure that guns are safely locked away.
Okay, so follow-up question for you, Christina, is, so one of the arguments is that even with all the gun legislation that you mentioned in place, universal background checks, on a federal level, you still have 390 million firearms that are on the streets in the United States. So in terms of legislation for mental health, is there any ideas that you have for that?
Well, I think, let's talk about the budget. A budget, the state budget, your home budget, the town budget, that all reflects values and priorities, right? So this state budget should reflect the values and priorities of our community and our state. And I know, in talking with my colleagues about this, that we need to put way more money into mental health and behavioral health supports. There's no question that we have high incidences of suicide in New Mexico. There's a lot that we have a much higher rate than other states, and suicides make up like 70% of firearm deaths. So I think we need to be really clear with ourselves about what we need in community. That's more therapists. It's more training for everyone, law enforcement and and the schools. But we also need real supports in the healthcare system, so that we can take care of folks who are in crisis. And that means having supports right here locally at our hospital and in our community.
Okay, thank you both. So a couple individual questions, and we will start with Florence. So you and I talked earlier this week just to chat because we had not really met before. And you were talking about this flyer that came out. Obviously, we want a friendly, clean race. And this question is not meant to change that. But obviously, you're running because you must believe you're going to do a better job than Christina has done. There's something that you have that you believe she doesn't. So can you tell us in 2 minutes what distinguishes you from your opponent?
So number one is that I was born and raised here, and I know the intergenerational patterns of trauma. So my focus is completely mental health, trauma-based, and education. The way we get through this is that we have to have prevention, intervention, and hopefully not much more crisis intervention like we're dealing with now. That's the huge difference. For 20 years, over 20 years, I have worked in this community. I have participated in roundtable discussions with people that from every walk of life. This is the new people who have moved in. This is the locals that live here. I love them all. So like I said from the beginning, I am the person that can close the gap. There's a huge gap in our community. Whether you see it or not, I am telling you, I'm hearing it as I'm out there. I didn't really have a plan to run. 20 years ago, I thought I would completely be in Santa Fe working. I love policy. It's my life. I still work policy at the schools. So the difference is that I am doing the work every single day. I am action, not just talk. That's the difference between us.
Okay, thank you. Christina, individual question for you is, you've been in office for about 1.5 years now. Tell us 3 things specifically that you've done that have impacted the lives of your constituents, not just people in general in the state. 2 minutes.
This is the legislature is a collaborative body. We pass laws together. I did have 2 bills passed into law last year and 2 this year that I think will have a great impact in our community. In particular, the SEED Act. That's the Community Energy Efficiency Development Block Grant, which will provide funding for low-income communities to make their homes more energy efficient. That I think, will have great impact here. It's jobs. It's also lower energy bills and safer homes. One of the bills that I'm extremely proud of is our land grant bill that provides a GRT to land grants. So that's money from the gross receipts tax will go directly to land grants so they can take care of all of the infrastructure needs, so that they don't have to have bake sales anymore to support the land grants needs, right? So this was a huge win. It was something that was in the making for many, many years, and we made that happen. That was one of my proudest achievements in the 30-day session. But in the last few years, we did a lot. We did a lot together. We repealed the terrible abortion ban. We had a pretty remarkable budget, especially for working families, with the low income tax credit for families, tax rebates, all those things that we do those things together, and we work as a body to make our state better all around. I'm really proud of that.
All right, thank you. So next question will be for both of you. Again, everybody knows a leaked U.S. Supreme Court draft opinion this spring suggested that our nation's highest court could consider soon overturning Roe v. Wade, which is the landmark 1973 decision that ensures a pregnant woman has a right to an abortion. If the law were to be overturned, it would fall to states to decide on the legality of reproductive rights. So the question is, would you support a woman's right to choose to have an abortion in New Mexico? And if so, do you believe there should be any limits to that right based on the viability of a fetus? And Florence, you're up first. We'll do 2 minutes on that.
Oh, so I do support a woman's right. As a social worker, I have actually been in some situations with women that have been put in a situation where they had to have an abortion. And I know that's hard for people to understand, but my work requires me, and in my heart, I believe that a woman has a right to make a choice on her own body. I have 2 daughters and a granddaughter now, and I wouldn't want anyone to tell them what they should do. The other thing is that decision is between her and her doctor. And I don't think that we should be having this discussion, really. And I have been to several meetings talking to people. This is another issue where I think we need to sit at the table with a group of people to talk about how do we educate and how do we love these young women, any woman who's in this situation. No more shame, no more blame. Let's love them and let's show them that we care so that we can stop what's happening here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Christina.
Let's be perfectly clear. Our rights as women are on the line right now. And New Mexico is one of the places where we can make sure that women have access to abortion care. Abortion care is health care. And when we got together in 2021 and we had a whole new House, women, many women elected in 2020 to make sure that we could repeal the abortion ban that was on the books. That ushered in a whole new way of thinking about how we can protect a woman's right to choose her own health care and how she makes decisions about her body. I am really afraid, and I think you should be too, that we've got a conservative wave coming that will take away the rights for all women all across the country. You know, we're looking at here in New Mexico what could happen. You know, we could have forced parental notification. We cannot have that. You know, there are young women under 18 who need access and need access to abortion care, and that's all there is to it. So I want us to be afraid. We need to be afraid, and we need to fight like hell to make sure that doesn't happen. And you can count on me to do that.
Okay, thank you both. So next question, also for both of you. We have a lot of sunshine in New Mexico, of course, and this spring has shown we have probably more wind than we really need. And New Mexico has actually ranked as having the second highest potential to become a renewable energy focused state. And yet we have a problem in that we are heavily reliant on oil and gas. Oil and gas is a $5.3 billion industry. It is our biggest industry by a huge margin. So this is a tough issue. So if elected, what would you do specifically to expand our district's role in renewable energy? And Christina, we'll start with you, 2 minutes.
Thanks, John. This is something I have grown even more excited about over the last couple of years. I sit on the Energy Committee. We talk a lot about these things, and we're blessed. I don't know if folks know how lucky we are here in Taos County with a utility that is focused on renewable energy, and that I think will pave the way for our future. There's no doubt in my mind that we need to increase the renewable energy portfolio across the board for all utilities, tenfold, 100-fold. We need to do that, but we also, really need to think about how we can, increase the energy production of renewables, but also really invest in energy efficiency, at the commercial and residential level, because there are lots of jobs that are available there as well. So, there's no question in my mind that we must diversify the economy. We've got 30 to 40% of our state budget based on oil and gas, and that's going to be the case for a couple of years. But we also know oil booms and busts. We know what that cycle looks like. We know how challenging it can be on our budget, and we need to move away. We've got robust reserves right now, huge reserves, and we can use that to ensure that we're investing in communities at the local level, so that we can have more resilient economies that aren't subject to the boom and bust.
All right, thanks, Christina. Florence, go ahead.
So I absolutely believe in, the wind energy, what we need to do in our community. I am part of EE New Mexico, Environmental Education New Mexico, where we work with our students to learn about prevention, how we get out there and really work in the land. And I 100% believe that this is a transition that needs to take place. And we need to stop again with the fear tactics. And we're again, one side is complete energy, one side is gas. And I think that once again, we need to come to that table and talk about, how do we have a world where we come together and educate our kids about the right way to live for climate change. For example, we're teaching our kids at school every day about climate change and helping them understand. When I was young, we used to go into the forest and get the wood, and that's not allowed right now. And so I do believe 100% that we have to make a change, but it shouldn't be done out of fear, and it shouldn't be done by attacks and misleading information and ugliness that puts one person with gas and one person with energy. Because I think that, look at our gas prices right now, it's ridiculous. And I know that Christina voted on a gas increase, but thing that didn't go through. But we do have to stop and take a look at, what are we doing to our town and our community? Gas has given a lot of money to my students. They have given money to lots of nonprofits in this community. Cuesta benefits greatly from oil and gas. I'm not saying that that's the only way. They are also willing to sit at the table and talk to us about how to do things differently. Kit Carson Electric is doing an amazing job with electricity. I recently built a home that's completely electrical and electricity, and it's amazing. So I'm 100% for that. Let's help people financially. This SEED, CEED, Christina, I tried to get on there and get some help and figure out how to do that. I'm not sure how to do that. How do we access the money?
John, may I comment?
Yes, please.
See, the rules have not been promulgated yet, so that's in the Energy, Minerals, Natural Resources Department. They're developing the rules. Will likely be ready to go by. So that's how laws are done, right? You pass a law, the governor signs it, it goes into effect. Often rules have to be developed, sometimes with the support of other community members, where you can put input in, and then the program is developed. So you can't get access to that yet because the rules haven't been developed, but they will be in September, October.
What I thought.
Okay, thank you both. So individual question for Florence. You've worked in behavioral health for many years. Under Governor Susana Martinez's administration, we saw an exodus of a lot of our behavioral health agencies in the state. And since then, we really haven't recovered. This problem is particularly bad in rural areas like Taos, and especially as you get into really rural parts of Taos County. If elected, what would you propose specifically at the state level next legislative session to restore behavioral health services to the state and specifically to Taos County?
First, okay. So first, yes, it was really hard on behavioral health, not just the organizations, but the families impacted. Still today, I'm dealing with grandmas who need their records from behavioral health agencies that have closed. So we absolutely need to stop that. The other thing is UNM Taos is such an amazing organization. We can get more behavioral health people in, mental health providers. There's Taos Behavioral Health hires and works with a lot of people under what's called a CCSS, a community agency program, so that we put wraparound services. My goal would be to make sure that the schools have more mental health providers. Shout out to all social workers out there. Man, we are working hard every day. We need more social workers in the schools. We need more mental health providers everywhere, in the hospitals, in the judicial system, at the legislature. As a legislator, we need someone that's able to self-regulate and say, I'm not going to let all this get to me, so that we can do the work that needs to be done. So everywhere we need mental health providers.
Okay, so follow-up question though, how do you do that? I mean, my question stated essentially what you said.
So you introduce a bill, and then you get support from other legislators, just like you would any other bill, like nursing. We need more nurses, and there's been stuff that's been introduced. Maybe a big example would be like the schools had, there was a raise, right? Tier 1, 2, 3 teachers got this raise. So you get people involved, and it moves from committee to committee. You get people to buy into your bill. And so I think that I absolutely could introduce a bill saying we need more mental health providers, and then get the community, you guys, you, John, come with me to Santa Fe. Come with me and say, this is what we want, this is what we need. I am transparent and I am approachable, and anyone that wants to come there and say, I want to fight for this, I will be there to help you fight for it, because I'm going to fight for it. Thank you.
Thanks. So Christina, you've worked in agriculture, you've worked in land conservation. I know that Taos Land Trust has done a lot of work at Fred Baca Park on food education. So with food costs rising higher and higher during the pandemic, what do you think Taos County can do to develop, I guess, further develop its own agriculture and a sustainable food system where we have not just a few people having access to local foods, but really like a lot of people in Taos able to eat food that's grown locally and sustainably?
That is a great question. It is something that I've been working on for many years now, helping to restore and protect land so that we can bring back our agricultural traditions and heritage. It is what has made Taos County what it is. It's not something that many people can do now. It's not easy to be a farmer. It isn't lucrative to be a farmer. Many of the folks who are growing food are also doing something else, or they're retired. So, there are two ways to really make things happen in the state legislature. And I'm also kind of speaking to Ms. Miera's comment before about behavioral health. You can work to get something in the budget, and you can also develop policy through a bill. Right. And so if we're looking at something like food security, and you can't just pass bills for your own county or for your own district, right? It really is for the entirety of the state. That's just how our state laws work. So, but I think about how the bills will have an impact on my community. And so I think about what we can do for food security here is you put money into the budget in a couple of different pockets, right? You put money into the Healthy Soil Program so that local farmers can have access to funding and resources to improve their soils so that they can grow more food. You put money into the schools program so that they can procure food from those local farmers. That's the kind of thing that you can do on the budget side. In terms of a bill, you do things like the bill that I passed a couple of years ago, the Homemade Foods Act. It allows for folks to make food, not in a commercial kitchen, but, to make food and sell it. Non-perishable items, baked goods and things like that. That's really important for the sort of the cottage food industry. And I think that's how you do it. You attack it from a couple of different angles, by making sure that there are line items in every budget category that has to do with food. But you also really need to protect the land and make sure that we're incentivizing farmers and folks who are restoring their land, and so they don't feel compelled to sell that land to developers for housing, which is also one of our biggest needs here. So there's a balance there. And I think if you're looking at all of these things, you can come up with a plan, which is what we've been doing for the last couple of years to make sure that we have greater food security in this community.
All right, thank you. So as of today, the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak Fire is 312,000 acres and 46% contained. Firefighters have made some progress this week, but the weather is supposed to get windy and continue to be dry for the next several days. And it's right on the southeastern edge of the county. And Hermit's Peak Fire started as the result of a prescribed burn. In response, the U.S. Forest Service has actually suspended prescribed burns nationally. But at the same time, prescribed burns have proven in the past to be an effective tool to prevent catastrophic wildfires. So the irony here is clear. Here we have a prescribed burn that started a catastrophic wildfire. So what is your position on prescribed burns, and what sorts of other steps might you take if elected to reduce the risk of another Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak Fire happening again in our state? Let's see, Florence, you're up first. We'll do 2 minutes on that question.
Okay, so that is devastating. And anytime, one of the things that Christina said was, you can't just focus on Taos County. She's correct. And in this position, whether it's mental health, and I think a lot of what happened with this fire is we're going to deal with mental health as well, is that it's all over New Mexico, even all over the United States when we're addressing the fires. We see them everywhere. So one of the ways would be going back to what we did as children was we were able to go in. So number one is meet with the Forest Service and find out what are they doing, what do they need to do, how do we get the people that really need the firewood. There's a lot of elderly in our community that really need it. So we could start with prevention again. Let's make sure we're cleaning the forest, but let's sit together to see how do we do this? How do we make sure that this never happens again? And how do we protect the community? I think that's the biggest piece is conversation again, being able to sit and talk about it and bring not just Forest Service, but the local, the city, the county, everyone together to say, what do we need to do? And I know I was with the governor a couple of times when people jumped up and said, why can't we clean? What's going on here? And she was pretty amazing with saying, I'm going to meet with you. I want to talk to you. I want to hear what we need to do. So, John, I think the key is talking to our community. What did we do in the past? How did we clean the forest? And how do we keep everyone safe?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Christina.
Thanks. This fire happened because of years and years of mismanagement of our forests by a whole host of folks, including the Forest Service, right? That's just really all there is to it. And I don't want to take prescribed burns out of our toolbox. It can be a very, very effective way of land management and fire management for our forests. It's important. Some species rely on fire to propagate. It's an important tool. But what's really, really important is that we're having those real community-based conversations around forestry that do involve all the parties, state forestry, private landowners, the Forest Service. That's what has to happen. So, and those conversations were happening, but the communication wasn't very clear, right? We shouldn't have burned on that day. There's no question, right? And these communities are going to be facing the biggest ecological disaster for probably the next 20 years. It will take billions and billions of dollars to invest in these communities to ensure that the forests are restored, the rangelands are restored, the grasslands, and we have to do it. One of the things that we talked about, and what's been happening here in Taos County, which is a remarkable thing, is the Leñero program, right? That's the Forest Council program, where it's a pilot program between the Forest Service and local neighborhoods. It's really, really remarkable. That goes a long way to addressing the firewood needs in our community, but also really connecting community again with the forest, with how the forest is managed and how and how we can move forward. That needs to be expanded, really across the Carson, the Santa Fe, the Lincoln National Forests. We need to have these programs all over, community forestry programs, because they really, really do work. But we're also going to have to rebuild those communities in a way that are fire-wise, right? That's it. We need houses that are safe. We need to build in the right places, and we have to really invest in the traditions that that make northern New Mexico what it is. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a real lot at every single level of government.
All right, thank you. So as I mentioned in the introduction to the forum, and as Christina knows, New Mexico is the only state that doesn't pay legislators a salary. I think in California, legislators make something like a little over $100,000 a year. So are you in support of paying state legislators? And if so, what would you propose as a reasonable salary to pay them? And Christina, we'll start with you. Just 1 minute.
Okay. It's going to be hard to talk about that in 1 minute. I've been working with these remarkable women, the women who passed the broadband bill. We've been working on modernization of the legislature, and it's not just salaries. It's also looking at in-district staff offices, full-time staff at the legislature. We need to look at the session length. We have a 30-day and a 60-day session, and we're making a lot of decisions, really important decisions involving, billions and billions of dollars of money, and we have to do it very, very quickly, right? So, I think I think it's too soon to settle on a salary range. I think it's I think we need to look at it, and I think we need to direct, there's a study going on right now at UNM, a Bieber study that is looking at this very thing, so looking at all the different states and what they're paying. But, that salary needs to be tied to session length and to, how much time that we're spending in the legislature. It is a full-time job. There's no question. Right. It really is, between the sessions and then the interim committees and just constituent support. And I think that New Mexicans deserve a legislature that is professionalized. I hope that was under a minute. Almost.
Well, you can extend it a little bit, because I would like to hear, you've been a legislator for 1.5 years. You clearly thought about it a lot. What would be a reasonable salary?
I think it depends. If it's 30 to 60 days, if we keep our session length like this, maybe it's $20,000 to $25,000. I don't know. I think that we should be thinking of a salary that will allow someone to do this full time and not to have another job. If we're talking about that, then we're talking somewhere between 60 and 80, or 60 and 100. I think that if we do that, there's going to be higher expectations for the kinds of services that we provide our constituents, which means that we also need to have constituent support. But again, I'm giving out ballpark numbers, but really, a lot of factors depend on this, and I think we need to bring in more experts to take a look at it.
Okay, thanks. So Florence, same question. Do you think legislators should be paid? And if so, what do you think a reasonable salary would be? And you can have 2 minutes, since we went a little longer with Christina.
I absolutely think they need to be paid. It's a lot of work. I'm not even in there yet, and I am so busy. It takes a lot of time. Your constituents, back when I was in Santa Fe, I remember the time it took then. And yes, I think that in order for our younger Hispanic and Native American people to be able to run, I think that it has to be a paid position. I think it'll change everything so that we're looking at local people being able to run for office. This has been extremely difficult for me. And, you know, there were days that I felt like I can't afford to run, but at the same time, I couldn't afford not to run. So I would hope that we can figure that out so that more local people that have been born and raised here and understand our community can also run. And I do think that, yes, they do deserve a professional salary. So if it is a 30-day session or a 60-day session, well, then they get paid for that time frame. But I do think that it should be a professional salary, and you know, maybe even looking at the 3-tier system of the school. So if you have an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, you kind of get paid in that range. Yes, I'm for it.
Okay. All right, thank you. So next question, Holy Cross Medical Center, our rural hospital, seems to have more and more patients who can't afford to pay. You know, the term is indigent patients. And we've seen at Holy Cross the payer mix shift away from private pay, private health insurance to more and more public health insurance. And this has been just one of many factors in why our hospital has struggled financially. It's relatively stable now, but as everyone knows, a few years ago, it was a real crisis.
John, I think you're frozen. Florence, is he frozen or is it just me?
He's frozen.
Okay.
All right,
I'm glad it's not just
maybe I'll ask
Awkward.
you
A
about
little awkward.
rural New Mexico.
Right.
Okay, so did I get that whole question out, or did I just freeze awkwardly?
I wouldn't say it was awkward.
Okay, so Holy Cross Hospital, the payer mix has shifted from private health insurance to public health insurance. What ideas do you have to help the hospital remain solvent in the long term? And we'll do 2 minutes on that question. Florence, you're up first.
So I have met with several of the nurses, EMT, people who are out there, and I think COVID, of course, has impacted the hospital quite a bit. But also as a mental health provider, I send people in there, you know, again, with suicidal and some of the mental health pieces of it. But if we could have a triage type thing where we have mental health providers maybe serving, that we really shouldn't have them at the emergency room. Some of what I have seen recently is that people are going in and they're flying them out of Taos. So there goes our tax dollars at work, flying them out. A lot of these are elderly people who, once they're in Santa Fe or Albuquerque, do not have transportation to come back. That's a lot of money. We really need to figure that out. So I think, again, we need to sit at the table and find out, why is this happening? Why don't we have local nurses? UNM has a program for local nurses. And I mean, we need everyone right now. I'm not against the nurses coming in, but there's no housing for them. So the price that the hospital, Holy Cross Hospital, is paying out right now is ridiculous and not okay. So I would say, let's figure out what is going on. Why are we flying people out that don't need to be flown out? I personally have 2 family members who were flown out within the last month, and then we had to go find them and pick them up and bring them back. And I am furious with that. That's a lot of money. So bring some mental health providers into the hospital. Figure out what's going on. This is not okay. Yeah, let's bring those teams together. Our local nurses, EMT, that are out there, let's support them. Why don't we give the extra money to them? So I will introduce some legislation, not just for Taos, because it is all over New Mexico. When you introduce, I think we need to take care of our nurses and EMTs. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Christina.
Thanks. This is a hugely complex issue in Taos County. You know, the state doesn't typically pay for hospitals, though it can. So, you know, we could look at an infusion of funding and support for Holy Cross. It is a critical care facility, you know, which means that we can't do all of the medical treatments that we need to do here. This is why folks get flown out, and part of that is because of the payer system. But there are things that we can do at the local level to make sure that our hospital can thrive again. You know, we need to look at accountability. We need to look at, you know, the hospital's efficiencies, the way the hospital board is developed and managed. You know, the county needs to, you know, have a seat at the table in a real way, especially because the hospital does rely on the mill levies. So our property taxes, you know, go toward the hospital, and I am super grateful to do that, and I will continue to do that because I want a hospital that is thriving and that can treat, you know, all the needs in this community. But we need to look at how those dollars are spent. There is no question that there are lots of traveling nurses here, no doubt. We need to, you know, pay our nurses more. You know, part of that is really related to pay. You can go to Española and you know, go to Presbyterian and make, you know, $50,000 as a starter bonus. That's a big deal. So we need to do a lot better there. But it's not a state issue necessarily. It's really the state and the county working together with the board and the management to make sure that we're bringing in the supports in from every direction, right? From the mill levies to, you know, making sure that we could have more doctors and nurses, you know, growing our own doctors and nurses and behavioral health specialists in our own community.
Okay. So we're getting to the last couple questions here. So New Mexico has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. It's 5.3%. And that's only second to the District of Columbia. Fortunately, we have a lot of jobs available right now, or at least relatively speaking, compared to the pandemic. We know that employers are out there trying to fill open positions, and yet it's been still really hard to get people to go back to work. So what ideas do you have to incentivize people to get back to work? And we'll start with Christina on that. 2 minutes.
Great. Thanks. I don't think we have so much as an unemployment issue as a wage issue. We just don't pay people enough, period. And it's increasingly more expensive to live in this community. You'd be hard pressed to find housing that is affordable for somebody making, you know, $11, $12 an hour, which is what you can make in a lot of places. It's just not enough. We need to increase the wages, and at the same time, we need to spend the copious amounts of dollars that we have right now at the state and local level to build the housing we need that folks can afford to live in. That you can't. You can't expect people to take jobs making $11 an hour and then try to find a place to live that, you know, is $1,000 a month. Those things all go together. And those are the kinds of investments that we must make and we can make right now. I really am confident that if we're building the housing that people can afford to live in, that we'll be able to, you know, to solve this unemployment gap. People will be able to live here and they'll want to work here.
All right, thank you. Florence. Oh, not hearing you, Florence.
Sorry. So there are many issues as to why people are unemployed or just, yet there's a lot of jobs out there, right? So one of the things that I am currently doing with our youth, because I always look at prevention, let's figure out how to teach these students with intergenerational patterns of homelessness or poverty, how do we teach them to self-sustain, basically? How do we teach them to take care of themselves? So what we are doing currently is I work with the Department of Labor with these students to help them get a job since they're in high school. So teach them the skills. I think that we actually need to teach the high school kids how to budget, how to balance a checkbook. What do you do with your money? Because if they learn how to do this when they're young, then they'll keep moving. Education is the key to getting out of poverty. I do agree with Christina that the jobs don't pay well enough. So somebody may have a job and then they can't even afford their house. And so they're losing their housing, and we're seeing all of that happen. So again, I think we need to go back to prevention and figure out how to support them while they're young. And then we have the next group of people. So we had American Rescue Funds, we have the CARES Act money that has come in, and we still have people who are homeless and living in motels. So we have put a wraparound service around these families to help them, teach them how to interview, help them get jobs. So there's a lot to it, John. It's going to take a team, and we need to continue talking about this and work on it.
Okay, thank you both. We're going to end on a quick question. What are some things that you admire about your opponent? Florence, we'll start with you. We'll just 1 minute.
I like that she has her 2 daughters that are beautiful and she shows them off. I feel the same way. I'm a mom of 2 daughters, and that she seems to care about her family, and some parts of the community. I just feel like maybe she doesn't totally understand all of the community, and I would love to see her step into that piece of it where everyone is supported. I apologize, but after that flyer, and I am having a hard time really finding positive things to say, because it's rough for me right now.
Okay, so Christina, same question, but maybe what are some things you admire? And same question I gave Florence earlier. You know, what are some things that you think make you a better candidate?
So those are 2 different questions. Do you want me to answer those 2 different questions?
Well, I'm asking you.
Or just
I'm asking you 2 different questions because Florence gave me 2 different answers.
Right. I am going to focus on the first question right now, which is that I do really admire my opponent's commitment to families in the schools, and her focus on behavioral health is really remarkable, and I commend it, and I welcome it. And when I get reelected, I want to make sure that we're working together to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind, and that we're elevating the debate around behavioral health and trauma in the legislature. Those debates are happening, those conversations are happening, but there's no question that we can make those voices louder and amplify those voices. And I guess I love this job. It's the best job I've ever had. It's absolutely the hardest as well. And I want to continue doing it. I've done a pretty darn good job in the legislature. I have a group of colleagues that I really admire and I like to work with. And there's so much that we've done in the last 2 years, and there's so much more that we can do. And I want to keep doing it.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. So we'll do closing statements now. We started with Christina on opening statements. So Florence, you're up first, and we'll do 2 minutes on these. You can start when you're ready.
So thank you, everyone. I do believe for Taos to flourish, we need a safe community to call home. And I have not felt very safe especially when my students are asking me about my signs being crossed out with an X. And so I really would love that we can all work together as a community. And so I feel really sad that I'm not able to just express what I was feeling prior to the mailers and the X's all over my signs. So I want Taos to know that I am a Democrat. That was one of the things that it said. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a lifelong Democrat, have always been. And I'm from this community, and I am ready and willing to dedicate my time, utilize my experience, and improve the lives of every family and person in District 42. I know the importance of family. My story would not be possible without the strong women that came before me. My grandmother, Margarita Anaya, who had to quit school at age 10 to raise her siblings because her mom died. She raised these siblings and taught them the importance of education, hard work, strong faith, and values. She passed on those values to her children and her grandchildren, all 8 of her children. And then there's my mother, Edna Miera. She instilled in me a great work ethic, independence, love, kindness, compassion, and strength as I watched her raise 5 children all alone after my dad died. She worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. I have worked that hard for my daughters, and she did it with grace and dignity, never taking a handout, just hard work. I promise you that I will work hard for Taos. Vote for me. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Florence. Go ahead, Christina.
Thanks again, John, the Taos News, Ms. Miera, and everyone listening tonight. I stand by what I say, and I hope that this debate clears up some issues for all of you. It is your opinion that matters most in the voting booth. I love this community. I work in this community. My children go to school here. We have put down deep roots here in Taos County. And 2 years ago, when you sent me to Santa Fe, I took your concerns about climate change, housing, land and water, behavioral health and education, starting with our youngest and our earliest learners. I took that with me to the Capitol. I'm proud of the work that we've done together as a body and the work that I've been able to lead the charge on. Things like paid sick leave, investments in energy efficiency, increased pay for state workers, teachers, law enforcement, judges, a budget that reflects the values of the state and really this district. What I have demonstrated to you as a legislator and the work that I do at the Land Trust, where I think really truly reflects my commitment to working in partnership to improve and really, I think, celebrate this district. We have 12 more days, and if I'm reelected, I will stand for you. I will stand to protect our land and water. I will stand for all of our educators at every level, starting with early childhood. I will stand for our businesses, our artists, our community. I will stand with law enforcement and our courts so that our community is safer and thriving. And I will continue to work with the town and the county to create the solutions that I think are really rooted in local community. Su voto es su voz. Your vote is your voice. My name is Christina Ortez, and I am a proud Democrat running for re-election as your representative for District 42, and I humbly ask you for your vote in this primary. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the end of the forum. Thank you both again. I really do appreciate it. I know that you are getting pulled in many different directions right now. And I have to say, like, reading through both of your resumes and your profiles, you both are 2 very, very impressive women who I admire for the work you're doing. Thank you for the work you do for Taos. And thank you for everybody who tuned in. Early voting ends June 4th and the election is June 7th. Today, Taos News came out and we have a special section in there with profiles on all of the candidates running in Taos County. Please read those, think about those, reach out to the candidates individually if you have questions, and please get out and vote. I know everybody's distracted right now, but it really is a critical part of the process. And with that, hope you all have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.